A day-to-day at 2WG was heavy maintenance. Was never stopped because we had all these old cart machines. We were forever running out of adjustment, and they were a nightmare. The consoles in the studio had whole sort of in the early days. They used to have what they call attenuators or faders, which were a stepped arrangement, and they never ever gave any trouble. And then they got modern and put in these consoles with carbon faders in them, and they were forever getting dirty. And getting dirty, I mean by noisy. So we're forever cleaning them. And the production studio was always a nightmare. There's that 8-track machine there that always needed tiddling up. The reason, if you go back, the reason is because all of these mechanical things didn't have to be just kept going. They had to be kept going perfectly, because if they weren't perfect, the end result was no good. And we had in starting off, we had turntables, and you're forever changing stylus. And the old turntables we had in the early days, particularly the old 16-inch ones, had bloody great horsepower motors in them, and they all had to be, make sure the rubbers were so they didn't make noises. And no, it was pretty full on. And then of course there's the transmitters. Well, you're forever out there adjusting them. They were old AWA transmitters, valve transmitters, and they were forever needing adjustment. And in those days we used to have an inspection by the Broadcast Control Board every year. They'd come around and they'd inspect everything, test everything, and your licence was based on how good your equipment was running. And they were pretty strict.
To give you an example of community involvement, each year at WG we used to cover the Gummy race down the Murrumbidgee River. And I remember one year in particular, we'd have somebody at the beach, or we'll go back, we'd have somebody at Wiradjuri where the race started, on the old two-way radio. We'd have somebody on a craft as part of the event. We'd have somebody at Wagga Beach, and then somebody down further on where the race finished, or I just can't think, it was just, oh, that was Wiradjuri, sorry. We used to start up at Yanoni, sorry, and we'd also have somebody at Wiradjuri. But this particular year, Jeff O'Brien, who a lot of people would remember as the talkback announcer on 2WG, also had a pilot's licence. So Jeff was up in the plane, flying and doing reports from the plane. And this is back in, about 1985, 86. And it was just amazing. To get all that coordinated and to air was brilliant. And a big community involvement.
Oh, well, when I started at 2WG in 1971, 70, well, actually I started really about 1968, there was 40 people on the staff, right? Now there's about 4. People cost money, so the best thing to do is get rid of them. And that's basically the way it's gone. But that's not just radio, that's every business. Yeah. You know, every business is the same. Oh, I think probably the funniest thing we ever did was hijack Scott Levi. We set up an outside broadcast down the mobile service station down by the railway station. It was the mobile. Announcer. Yeah. And we set up an OB down there, and I teed it up with the telecom fellas. We had a landline there, and we bypassed the studio and started doing the show from there. And he's sitting up in the studio going nowhere. And the next thing we know, there's a couple of coppers went up, because we'd arranged all this, went up the stairs and grabbed him by the shoulders and took him and put him in the paddy wagon and took him away. It was April Fool's Day. Oh. Anyway, but you couldn't do that today, you know. And these coppers, they drove him around town for half an hour and then dropped him down at the OB. 2WG up until 1980 or 1985 was owned by Wagga. It was owned by the people of Wagga, you know, and they did lots of things for the community. They had the group of ladies who got the Haven going and all that sort of thing through the station, and they raised money, and we did lots. The station did lots for the community, you know, and people had access to the station You know, we used to interview. We'd do 2 interviews a day in the early days. We had a few drive time announcers in the morning, and they'd round up interviews of interesting people. And people like Mary Ryder used to go to Canberra and interview politicians and come back. And the station belonged to the people, and everything was done here. You know, we had a program director, Mel Brentnell. You know, had his little library down there, and he'd sort out the records, and that was your program, and away you went. And then when it got taken over by DMG and later the Macquarie mob, it's no longer a local station. It's just a leaf in a big pond, and all decisions are made outside of Wagga, and they will claim that they still do things for Wagga, but not to the extent we used to do it. And the same was with Prime TV, or RVN2 as it was, until Prime took it over. Everything was for Wagga. And they did some fantastic things. We had kids programs going out there, and they did their own thing.
Local live
stuff,
yeah.
You know, a little tin pot TV station in the middle of nowhere. But they used to do a lot of it, and we'd have local people come in, and they'd interview them and talk to them and do programs around them and all that sort of stuff. That doesn't happen anymore.
When I started there doing mid-dawns, we were 24 hours live. Now they have, I think they do breakfast live, and that's it. All the rest is on relay.
A young world. Don't forget at 6 o'clock the latest news from the Macquarie newsroom. Following that we have the latest weather information for you, and after that more hits of the day. Time being from 2WG, 6 1/4 minutes to 6.
It's 6 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Jim Angel.
Yeah, of course. Why not? It's free. It's free. So get down here and join us. Thanks, Floyd and Steve down there on the beach. Scott Levi broadcasting live. For better music to WG.
Riverina's Triple M was celebrating 90 years of 2WG and Triple M in the community this year, end of this month, in fact. And one man who's made a massive contribution.